Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over my divisional round NFL predictions for the 2022 NFL playoffs. I meant to do this video earlier in the week, but I started school this week. I didn't stay up for the entirety of the game on Monday night because it wasn't a very interesting game. And then by the time Tuesday came around, I had a lot of stuff to do for classes yesterday, getting everything together. So today was the first day I could really do a video since the wildcard games were finished. I'm going to try and find time to do videos as often as possible, but with school being in session, I need to make sure to do that first. So just so you guys are aware. With that being said, though, let's get right into my predictions. First off, I have the Titans beating the Bengals 34-30 in the first divisional round of the AFC. Titans are the 1 seed, the Bengals are the 4 seed. These are not in order of when the games are. I probably should have done that, but sorry. I don't know the schedule of the games for this weekend. But I have the Titans beating the Bengals mostly because when the Titans have had all of their players, they are majorly unstoppable. I did a video on this earlier in the week, and in the games where they've had Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, and A.J. Brown, there are very few of those games this season, but they're either 4-1 or 5-1. And they don't have more than 2 losses while any of them are on the field at all, period. The biggest being A.J. Brown. They are 11-2 when A.J. Brown is on the field. And they are 2 and they're 1-3 without A.J. Brown on the field. So the Bengals are looking very strong. If the Bengals were playing Buffalo or Kansas City, I might potentially be picking them because they are clicking, and Joe Burrow has been looking phenomenal recently. But I'd have to pick the Titans for this one. The other thing is that the Titans' defense has improved so much since the beginning of the season. Last year, they were arguably one of the worst defenses in NFL history to have ever made the playoffs. This year, they're getting takeaways. Their points per game average isn't very high, and they've won a lot of games on their defense, especially since Derrick Henry's been injured, namely the Rams game and a couple of other ones. So Tennessee's defense is looking very formidable, and because of that, I think the Titans will win. It'll be a close game. Joe Burrow put up a lot of points, but Titans will win. Bills-Chiefs, I have the Bills winning 37-34. I have all these games being very close. I have Buffalo winning this game. This might be slightly biased because I was watching the Bills game from the fan point of a Patriots fan, and I was watching the Chiefs game as a fan point of a football fan. And so with that being said, Buffalo's offense just looked unstoppable. Kansas City's offense did look very potent against the strong Steelers defense, but for the majority of the season, the Patriots defense was arguably one of the better, if not the best defense in the league, and Josh Allen just went in there and dominated. This is a rematch of the AFC Championship game from last year, and I think that the Bills are going to rewrite the story, and they're going to win this time. Last year, Kansas City won to make it to the Super Bowl. This year, I think, will be Patrick Mahomes' first season as a starter where he does not make the AFC Championship game. Again, this might be slightly biased as I am a Patriots fan, and I think that Buffalo's performance in that game may have influenced my opinion, but I personally think that Buffalo is the second strongest team in the AFC right now, and Kansas City potentially is the weakest team left in the AFC playoff race. They did have that long win streak, but a lot of their wins were against injured teams, much like the Patriots. And then when they played the Bengals, they didn't come out with the victory. So I'm very curious to see how this game goes. I think Kansas City is a very strong team, but I think this will be a very close game. Packers Niners. My apologies. So for this game, I have the Packers beating the Niners 27-24, and I think that this game is going to be the lowest scoring game of the week. 27-24 is by no means a low scoring game, but I do think that it will be the lowest scoring game of the week. And I think that most of that is to do with the fact that both of these offenses are strong offenses, but they don't always put up, compared to the other teams that are in the playoff race, they don't always put up these massive numbers of points. And that's because they both have very strong defenses. Their defenses have been very key in a lot of their wins. And I think that the defenses are going to really show up this week, especially the Niners. Their defense in the recent weeks has been really key in a lot of their victories. And I think that this week is going to be just the same story. I don't think they'll win, but I do think that they have a much better chance than I think a lot of people are giving them credit for. Jimmy Garoppolo has the fourth highest winning percentage of any quarterback over the last 5 years, higher than Aaron Rodgers, actually. And the last time they played each other in the playoffs was an NFC Championship game, and the 49ers won. I think that this Niners team is better than 10-7. I don't know if they're as good as the Packers, but they're definitely better than their record shows. They beat Dallas last week, which I did predict correctly. I believed that they would beat Dallas, and they did. And it was a very close game towards the end, but the Niners had control over the majority of the game. I think that this game the Niners are going to get an early lead, and I think that Aaron Rodgers will come back and win it towards the end. Last but certainly not least, we have Tampa versus the Rams. Again, excuse my title section. I originally had the Rams and the Niners switched. I just switched them. So I apologize for that. I have Bucks beating the Rams 38-31. I think that this will be the largest point deficit of the week, a 7-point victory. All the other ones were 3 or 4 point games. And I think that this one is going to potentially go into overtime, but I think that the most likely scenario is that the Rams tie up the game with 1 or 2 minutes on the clock and Tom Brady goes down the field and wins it. I think that this is going to be the closest game of the week. I think it's going to be back and forth the entire time. I don't think that there will be more than a 7-point lead at any point in the game ever. And I think that this was definitely the last matchup between these two was not nearly as close as this one's going to be because the Rams were a very different team back then. At the beginning of the season, they looked like the strongest team in the league. Then they had that lull with their 3-game losing streak. Then they brought it back, and then Matthew Stafford went on his interception streak. The Rams have been very up and down. Tampa's been very consistently, slightly improving every week. I think that Tampa is going to have the advantage going into this game, and I think that because it's in Tampa and because of all of the other factors, I think that Tampa does have a slight advantage in this one, and I think that Tom Brady, obviously, being playoff Tom Brady, will also have an advantage. Perfect example, last year Tampa lost to the Saints twice in the regular season and then beat them in the playoffs and then continued to lose to them twice in the regular season again this year. Regular season and postseason are very different for Tom Brady, and I will never bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. So, these are my predictions for this week. I only have one upset this week, which is Bills over Chiefs. Last week I had 2. One of them was correct. I predicted the Niners over the Cowboys, and I had predicted the Cardinals over the Rams, which turned out to be a terrible idea. But other than that, pretty good for last week, 5 out of 6. Hopefully for 4 out of 4 this week. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace.